Aren't you tired of wasting your life? Aren't you tired of allowing yourself to keep making the wrong decisions over and over and over again when you know intuitively that's not what's meant for you? Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of You're Welcome. If you're new here, my name is India. I'm into all things mental health, inner work, and so I talk a lot about that on this podcast, as well as my aha moments. So if you like that type of content, stick around. We have some things to chat about. Okay, this week I want to talk about time to cost ratio, because I feel like a lot of times, especially as women or as people in general, we don't measure properly the amount of time something costs. Instead, we value more the actual monetary value of something than what it could cost us in other ways. And so this is my little perspective that I have gained over the last couple of years in order to feel better about what I was not only spending my money on, but what I was spending my time on. So I've really thought heavily about my time to cost ratio when it comes to what I'm giving my energy to, what I'm giving my time to, and what I'm giving my money to. And I feel like in society, we value more of what we give our money towards versus our time and our energy, when these two things can make or break the money part, in my opinion. And so I did a little experiment on myself at Barnes & Noble a couple of weeks ago, and I learned a lot from that experience. And it really just reiterated what I already knew to be true for myself. So if you're living in Atlanta or you're from Atlanta, then you may have heard about this big Barnes & Noble sale that was going on in Cobb County at the Smyrna location of Barnes & Noble. So that one is closing down. So they were doing like a closeout sale, 40% off of everything in the store. Some things were 50% off. I think some things maybe were 30. Either way, between 30 and 50% off of things, and all the books were like 40% off. So I was in the area for a showing, so I was like, let's just go and see what's going on here. This was the second day of the sale, or the first full day of the sale, but the second day it was announced. So I go, I find a parking spot in the lot. It is jam-packed, but I'm like, you know what? I found a spot, maybe that's a good sign. Walk up in there, it was like Club Barnes & Noble. I've never seen Barnes & Noble that packed. Like, I obviously knew people read, but anytime I've gone to Barnes & Noble, it's normally quiet, it's normally chill. It was bumping in there, but that didn't stop me. I'm like, all right, let's just browse, because you do get a little excited. And I'm not a Black Friday shopper. I used to work Black Fridays and like at American Eagle and at Estee Lauder. So I've never been a Black Friday girl. My mom is a really big Black Friday shopper, but I am not, because I don't like lines and I don't like to feel hectic, and I don't like that amount of people in my face, honestly. Like, sometimes concerts and stuff are even hard for me. Anyway, so I'm like, but I feel hyped up. You know, I've had a latte, so that probably contributed some to it. So I'm shopping around. I maybe spend like an hour shopping, and then I spend maybe 30 minutes sitting down with the books and just looking at reviews. You know, I did find maybe 5 books on my wish list, and then the rest of the books I'm just like looking at reviews, seeing what I want to buy. So I spent maybe an hour and a half digesting, or searching and digesting. And that's a normal amount of time for me to like shop around for books and stuff. I just love it. I've been reading since I was 2. So, and then this year I've really been getting back into reading. Like, I fell off a little bit, but the past couple of years I'm like, yeah, we're prioritizing this. So I'm super hyped. So I don't stop myself from like checking out. I'm like, you know what, let's find the line. Let's see how long it's gonna take. And then if it's too long, we'll leave. So at this point, again, I got there at 11:30. It's now about 1 o'clock. It took me maybe 10 minutes to find the line. Like, it was a little overwhelming because there are lines everywhere from every direction, and you can't find the beginning, the end. Like, it was just a lot. And I was starting to feel overwhelmed, but I was like, you know what? I want to put myself to the test and see what this is like. So I stand in line. At this point, it's like maybe 1:15. It starts moving a little bit. I'm at the back of the line. So it starts moving a little bit, and I'm getting like almost like 50% through. And at this point, it's like 1:45, and a few people leave the line because I'm also on Amazon and I'm looking at how much the books cost on Amazon. And of course, if I can buy them in person, I do like to do that. You know, we are contributing, when we think about it, to a big conglomerate as far as Amazon goes, and it's kind of important at this point in our lives to think about that and try to buy local as well. Like I still buy things on Amazon, but I want to strive to do better and buy things locally. Amazon was really big during COVID, like because we couldn't go out. But now that we're able to go out, it's really important to kind of also look at that. Anyway, so I am looking online at Amazon and I'm like, wow, the books are about the same price, like a little bit cheaper. But when I calculated the difference between what I would probably be paying with tax in Barnes & Noble versus on Amazon, it was maybe a $30 difference. And so I'm like, ugh. Like I'm 50% away through and it was about 1:45, almost 2 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, I'll give this like another 30 minutes. And if this line hasn't moved in 30 minutes, I'm leaving. Y'all, the line, I swear it was like standstill at that point, which is insane. For it to move that much at first and then not to move at all, it was diabolical. But at this point I'm like, you know, let's just do it for the plot. Let's experiment with myself and see what it's like firsthand to spend this amount of time doing a task instead of doing an easier route. So long story short, I was at Barnes & Noble for a drum rolling toll of 3.5 hours. Yeah, so I spent an hour and a half shopping and then I was in line for 3.5 hours. That's insane. Absolutely insane. And again, the only reason why I did that was because I really wanted to weigh myself and ask myself, was this worth it? And after I left the store, was I happy with my purchases? Absolutely. Was I happy to have had an experience like that? Like I met a new friend in line. We exchanged information in Fable and we talked about other books and she gave me suggestions. I gave her suggestions. But was it overall worth my time? And the answer is no. And at the end of the day, I value that my time was worth more than $30 of savings. Now retail, I saved about $90. Like if we're talking about the retail price of the books at Barnes & Noble. But I feel like places are always doing sales. And so who's really buying the full retail price of a book unless it's brand new? So the brand new books, maybe, but even those are on sale on Amazon. So I'm like, this wasn't really worth my time. When I think about it, I probably saved about $10 per hour. And my time is worth more than $10 per hour. $10 per hour is like taking it back to the days of working when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. Like I value my time more than $10 an hour. And that's not to say $30 is nothing, but when you're as busy as we are as adults and we have work and we have social lives, we have kids and families and animals and homes and things to do, you really have to weigh the time to cost ratio. And so it was a good experiment I did and something I will never do again, but I really want to talk about why it's important to weigh those factors. I feel like a lot of times as human beings, we tend to waste time on things that we've already invested in. And a big thought I had when I was at Barnes & Noble was, I'm already here. I'm already in line. I might as well keep going. I might as well keep doing it. I might as well finish the task. But at what cost? Again, I saved about $30, which is equating to about $10 per hour. Think about all the times that you have continued doing something that at the end of the day, were not worth your energy, were not worth your money, were not worth the time that you spent on said thing. A big thing that I think about when I think about this is relationships. Think about all the relationships in which you invested so much time, energy, money, all for it to fail. When you kind of intuitively knew that it wasn't meant to be and that it was, you should have ended it sooner. There's this Japanese expression that basically says that if you get on the wrong train, get off at the nearest station, the longer it takes for you to get off, the more expensive the ride. So in so many words, that's just to say, when you realize you're on the wrong stop, get off. Because if you keep going down that path, it's gonna take you even more time and cost you even more to get back on track. And when I heard this expression about 2 years ago, a light bulb lit up because I was like, wow, think about all the time that you've wasted on something when you knew it was the wrong move, when you knew it was the wrong choice, when you knew that you were already on the wrong route and you just persisted because you waited for it to get better, or you were hoping that they would change, or you were hoping that job would get better, or that you would feel differently about it, when you could have just stayed on track and not have wasted time doing that set thing. The bravest thing that you can do when you are in a relationship that's wrong for you, when you're at a job that's wrong for you, when you have friends that are wrong for you, is to change gears, change directions, and go towards what you know is going to be of better value for you, is going to be of better energy for you, that is going to just serve your life in a better way. And that's not to say that immediately you can make those decisions. Like when you have a job, I don't recommend obviously quitting your job before you have another job. But just like on a train route, right? Like if you're on the wrong train and you realize like, oh shoot, I'm on the wrong train, but you have another 30 minutes till you're able to get off on that exit, you start strategizing and you're like, okay, I have 30 minutes till I'm at the right exit, so I'm gonna do this, do that. And you start realizing that, okay, I can get back to where I need to be. I might be 15 minutes late. I might be 30 minutes later than I thought that I would be, or an hour later, but I'll get there. Right? But just think about all the times that you stayed on that wrong train and you're like, okay, well, I'm already here. Let's just go see what it's like. Then you get there and you're like, oh, I just wasted all this time, all for me to realize exactly what I knew before. Aren't you tired of wasting your life? Aren't you tired of allowing yourself to keep making the wrong decisions over and over and over again when you know intuitively that's not what's meant for you? And again, it's hard to have those realizations and it's hard to make those changes, but making those changes are so worth it. And that is something I constantly remind myself of. I was in a bad relationship for 4 years, and for the first time ever in my life, instead of experiencing another bad moment, because we had some bad moments, we had a really bad breakup and I allowed myself to get back together with this man. But for the first time ever, I put myself first. I didn't wait for something really catastrophic to happen again. I picked up my stuff and I left, and I decided that I deserved better. And for the first time ever, I felt this relief come over me because I chose myself. And when you have that realization that you're wasting time and that you are ready to take hold of your life again, to reclaim your power, to reclaim your life, and to move differently, you have this empowering feeling. Like you feel empowered. You have this like feeling of finally loving yourself and feeling self-worth and making those decisions that are hard, but you know that are going to impact your life in a positive way. When it comes to your time, your energy, your money, you realize that I'm worth so much more than what I was giving to this situation, this person, this job, this whatever. And so let this be my encouragement to you, to when you get on the wrong train, get off. As soon as you know you're on the wrong train, either strategize to make it to the next destination or get off right then if you can. And again, it's not always easy to make that decision, and sometimes you can't make that decision right away. You have to strategize to get there. I have friends who are also in relationships where they felt like, I've got to strategize to get out of this, because they weren't financially stable, or they didn't have a place to live, or they knew that it would end in some dramatic way. Same thing with the job. You might not be able to leave it right away because you need to set yourself up, but start that process now. Don't make the excuse of saying, well, it does do this, it does do that, when you know ultimately it's not serving you. Stop making excuses for staying where you are. If it's not serving you, figure out a way to get out of it. It doesn't have to be right then. It doesn't have to be the next day. It doesn't even have to be a month from then. You could decide that you need to get out of something, and it could take you 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, maybe even a year to finally leave that situation. But when you know, sit in that knowing and don't allow yourself to forget about it. Don't allow yourself to stay there just because it's convenient. Decide to move forward, because when you do, when you put yourself first, when you decide my time, my money, my energy is worth more than this, you feel better. You feel like you have self-worth. You feel like you are taking ownership over your life, and it doesn't stop then. It just makes it easier to make those decisions over and over again. And the more decisions you make like that, the stronger your intuition gets, because you are listening finally to those whispers. Because when you don't listen to your intuition, the whispers get quieter and quieter and quieter. Sometimes they get louder and louder and louder, but when you are used to ignoring it and tuning it out, it becomes easier and easier to tune out those whispers of intuition, of what you know you need to do, what you know is the right next step. And sometimes time to cost ratio looks differently. For me, in my Barnes & Noble story, it wasn't anything detrimental like a relationship or a job, but it was my time that I could have spent working on my business or doing something for myself as far as like self-care, instead of standing in a line at Barnes & Noble for 3 hours because I was saving $30. And so again, I know that's a hard pill to swallow because, you know, one time my sister calls me and she's like, oh my gosh, the price of gas, oh my God, the taxes. And I had to tell her, like, at the end of the day, we have to pay our taxes. At the end of the day, we have to buy gas. So instead of focusing so much on how much something costs and wasting energy of couponing and savings, like I love a savings, don't get me wrong, I love a savings, but when you waste 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours on finding ways to save versus finding ways to make more money or opening up your energy field to creating more money, to me, that's a waste of time. That's a waste of resources. And so I've learned that instead of chasing a savings, I'm gonna look for other opportunities. I'm going to allow God to show me other opportunities that are going to make me more money so that that doesn't even matter. And when you open yourself up to that sort of knowing of like, okay, I'm not going to spend 2 hours couponing. Instead, I'm going to spend 2 hours researching XYZ that's going to help me make more money, researching this about my business, researching this side hustle, looking up how I can do this or ways that we could overall make a big impact monetarily in my life. It changes things because then you're opening yourself up to seeing things differently. And the goal is to see things differently because there are so many people who are making money out here, and money is not scarce. Money is not a scarcity. That's living in a scarcity mindset and a lack mindset when you think that there's only so much money and a ceiling that you can have for making money. And that was where I was. And so that's something that I've worked on consistently over and over again because money is just that, it's money. And money can be good and it can be bad, but when you look at ways that you can make it work for you and look at ways that you can create more opportunities and more wealth for yourself, then you're no longer living in a scarcity mindset where you need to penny pinch, look up every savings, try to find a coupon for everything that you want. Instead, you embrace the fact that I'm doing this makes me feel good, and I'm going to keep doing it. And I know that the universe, God, spirit team is going to provide more money for me because this makes me feel good. And this makes me feel good more than looking at trying to save 1,000,000 times a day. Like, I'm sorry, but that is exhausting. And yes, have I been in that place where I have penny pinched and switched internet providers because this person was offering me a deal even though I liked this provider better? Or even now, like trying to figure out, I was looking for savings to figure out somewhere else to live versus just staying where I'm at, where I'm comfortable, and figuring out more ways to make money so that I can have something better than what I have now versus downsizing. And you know, it's funny, I was also talking to my friend. She does apartment locating. I'm in real estate. I don't do apartments that much, but sometimes I do rentals, but that's her sole business. So I was talking to her about it and I was like, you know what? Like, it just wasn't worth my time to apartment hunt when I'm happy where I am. And so I actually ended up saving with my apartment. It was a quick email. It wasn't something that took up a lot of my time, but I said, hey, like, this is deals that other places are offering. Could you offer me that? And at the end of the day, they agreed to it. I didn't even have to go out of my way to search and hunt and do all that stuff because I decided like that wasn't serving my higher purpose. That wasn't serving what I needed to. That was just wasting time and energy and focus on the wrong things. And so overall, I would encourage you to really take a look at what you are spending your time on and ask yourself, is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Is this worth it at the end of the day? And if it is worth it to you, then great. There are some things that I do that some people might feel like are a waste of time, but to me it's not. And there are things that other people might do that I think are a waste of time that are not. But as long as it feels good to you, that is the goal. If it doesn't feel good to you, then stop doing it. And couponing doesn't feel good to me. I do go on Publix and I love a BOGO. So I will look at the BOGO and that takes me about 5 minutes of my day. But I'm not spending 30, 40 hours trying to find coupons here, coupons there, when I could be figuring out more ways to make money. So really look at your time to cost ratios and evaluate that and see what makes you feel good. Make a pros and cons list if you need to. Make lists. I love a list. And so I'll make lists and say like, okay, these are the things that I do to try to save money. And is it worth it? Like my nails. I think I used the story of my nails. Like I used to get my nails done all the time, and then I stopped getting my nails done, and I ended up being in the worst financial position I could have ever been in. And I was wasting so much money and time by trying to do my own nails versus just going and getting my nails done. That was an hour and a half of my day once a month. Like it sometimes is so worth it. And the faster I realized that and I started getting my nails done, I've made more money just simply because I made the decision that I'm gonna do things that feel good to me. And it's not financially irresponsible to do things that at the end of the day are going to put you on a higher energy level and a higher frequency. Because when you feel good, then you're able to emit good, and good is able to find you. And so that is my biggest encouragement for you. Well, that is all the time I have for this week's episode. I hope that it was helpful. If it was, even just a little bit, then I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, to follow my podcast channel as well, which is You're Welcome, and that is on Spotify and on Apple. And per usual, I have enjoyed speaking with you guys, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.